Yeah, excellent insights there, Esther. Now onto something a little bit lighter, the TV show The Crown. I think it's fair to say we all love the first few series, Claire Foy as Queen Elizabeth and Helena Bonham Carter as Princess Margaret. But the show's come into a lot of criticism for maybe not sticking to the facts or to the story, really. In the next and final series, Diana is apparently going to reappear as a ghost to Charles as he's mourning her in the hospital after she was killed in that car accident in Paris in 1997. Do you think they've taken the artistic licence a bit far?
I think that was always the risk with the crown, and I know there are members of sort of of Buckingham Palace that really shudder every time a new season of the Crown comes up because they have to effectively refute a lot of the nuances in the show that are really artistic license. Look, at the end of the day, I'm sure there are people that are rejoicing actually over these developments because it would make people understand that the Crown is a fictionalized retelling of the what happens in the royal family, and for them to not take it as fact. The scene of Princess Diana coming back as a ghost is quite an interesting one, actually. In her, I suppose, in the bit where she actually speaks to Charles, she tells him how handsome she is and how much she loved him. We have to remember that at the time of her death, she was in a relationship with another man who also tragically died alongside her in that car accident in Paris. And their divorce was quite an acrimonious one. I mean, I know people have short-term memories, but Princess Diana was not actually very popular at the time of her divorce to King Charles. There was a bit of a media battle going on there. Both members of their households were effectively briefing the press on stories that wouldn't paint each other in the best light, and people really took entrenched positions. There was a lot of vitriol against actually Princess Diana. It wasn't until after her death and the royal family's reaction to her death that she seemed to have been posthumously, I suppose, raised in the public view of her. But actually, at the time of her divorce from King Charles, the public wasn't very fond of Princess Diana. So again, this just harks back to the fact that the crown is fiction, is fictionalized. It does have a lot of artistic license, and clearly there are some elements of it that are not reflective of reality whatsoever.
Now, Elizabeth Debicki, she plays Diana in the series, and a Netflix source has said that the appearances of Diana after her death were, to quote, visualizations of innermost thoughts, rather than intended to be interpreted as supernatural. What do you make of that?
Again, I don't think anyone would dispute that bringing back a ghost is not supernatural. There are many of us who don't believe in ghosts, so I don't think that argument holds water. But also, the idea of a reflection of innermost thoughts, again, is very skeptical because everyone knows at the time, they were divorced. Their divorce was very acrimonious. She was in a relationship with another man. They had a bit of a war of press releases going on. And from the script that we know has been released from the show, she's actually kind of speaking to Charles in a very fond and very loving way while he's by her bedside in the hospital, crying, weeping, mourning over her death. Now, I'm not saying that at some point they wanted more civil towards each other or that they wouldn't have been deeply affected by each other's deaths. But the Crown has taken a lot of artistic license to suggest that Princess Diana, at the time of her death, would have come back as a ghost to tell King Charles how handsome he is. I mean, that's quite superficial and irrelevant. I suspect she would probably more have said something along the lines of, "Please take care of our boys. I'm sorry for all the pain we caused each other," something along those lines. You know what? I think the Crown should hire me as a writer. I think that's the conclusion we can draw here.
I think that is the only solution to this problem, Esther. Agreed. Now, on to Harry and Meghan. They were busy on World Mental Health Day, as you'd expect, because it's an issue that's really close to their hearts. They attended the first Archwell Foundation Mental Health Summit in New York. Meghan spoke of her concerns about how her children would be affected by social media. Let's have a listen to what she had to say.
But I will say I feel fortunate that our children are at an age, again, quite young, so this isn't in our immediate future. But I also feel frightened by how it's continuing to change, and this will be in front of us. As I say, being a parent, the days are long, but the years are short.
Esther, given the profile that Archie and Lilibet will no doubt have, she's pretty right to have those concerns, isn't she?
Of course, even parents whose children aren't literal prince and princesses of the United Kingdom are concerned over the use of social media and how it's impacting younger people. We know that depression and anxiety amongst younger generations have risen mainly as a result of social media, as a result of trolling and hatred and all of that. So she does have cause for concern, and also she and her husband are very well known. They have huge name recognition. I mean, we can, to some extent, draw parallels with the Kardashians. I'm pretty sure if Kim Kardashian's children stumble upon a site with the letter X in there and type in something that rhymes with Major, they will see something very unsavory of their mother that could traumatize them for the rest of their lives. And thankfully, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex don't have that problem in the same way. But if the children were to Google them and all the scandal that came with the royal family, it could have an impact on them. And there's no doubt that all the drama that they've had with the royal family will probably follow them and their children for years to come. I do find it ironic that they're holding a mental health summit. Prince Harry wrote a piece for a business magazine called Fast Company, where he said that social media companies were stoking a crisis of health, of hate, and of a lack of truth, basically, which perfectly summarizes his book Spare, where he didn't seem to have a lot of concern for the royal family, the members of the royal family's mental health when he was revealing intimate details of their lives. I mean, it's impossible to not draw parallels here and highlight the hypocrisy. They were happy to endanger the mental health of their brother and sister-in-law and their father-in-law or father, and in the case of Prince Harry's stepmother, and all of the people that they were happy to write about. And clearly their mental health didn't feature very highly on their list, particularly when compared to the massive checks and that they were awarded from all their shenanigans with Netflix and the book royalties and into Oprah, I assume, and all of that. So I mean, while I do understand their concerns for the impact of social media on the younger generation, particularly their own children, of course, it is ironic, and it's very difficult to take them seriously when mental health only matters when it comes to them and their feelings and their truth. It doesn't really matter when it comes to other people, particularly their own family members, and the public is going to remember that.
Yeah, and look, you're not the only one who's raised that this week. Richard Eden, a royal writer, he posed the same question in the Daily Mail, asking Harry and Meghan, or asking the question as to why Harry and Meghan showed no concern for other members of the royal family's mental well-being. We've got a great photo here of the younger royals wearing, I love these headbands, to as part of their advocacy for mental health, to draw attention to it. But is this here just another example, Esther, of the Sussexes' inability to be introspective and to understand how their own behaviour impacts other people?
Absolutely, and it just shows a level of immaturity. I must point out that at the time that Prince Harry wrote and released Spare, his brother-in-law and his brother and sister-in-law were also parents. So in many ways, their experiences could have been reflected in each other. They were both parents to young children. They were both married. They both had responsibilities. To not have any regard for what the revelations in Spare would have on their lives, particularly while they're juggling, royal duties and a young family and being a good spouse to each other, I think actually just highlights how out of touch that they are. I also think it's ironic that Meghan and particularly Harry are always talking about mental health. Well, they don't really seem like very mentally well people either. I don't actually see a healed person when I listen or watch Prince Harry. He's always talking about the same things about the impact of the death of his mother, which is fair enough. But I don't think anyone would look at Prince Harry and say, actually, I want to emulate him and I want him to become my role model in what a picturesque mental health situation looks like. And that's something to bear in mind as well. Obviously, we know how tragic the falling out between the royal family and the Sussexes has been, how unfortunate it has been, particularly for the Sussex children who effectively have been isolated from virtually all family members that they know, barring Meghan's mother and her cousin. But it is important to highlight these things because it does impact their credibility. They're now the renegade full royals that are traveling the world trying to do good, but it doesn't seem like that good is reflected in their own lives, unfortunately.
And just following on from that, we've been hearing stories for months about the strain of fame and on Harry and Meghan's relationship. More reports this week. So what's the update?
So we heard a few weeks ago that following the death of Dianne Feinstein, the governor Gavin Newsom was looking for a replacement in the Senate to finish out the, I believe, 10 or 11 months of her term. And Meghan's name was in the mix. Apparently, she has been socializing with senior Democrats, and apparently she had a call with Senator Newsom to discuss her political ambitions. It's not surprising that she's leaning more towards the Democratic Party than the Republican Party, particularly because she lives in California, and I'm sure she reflects a lot of the political views or the mainstream political views of the Democratic Party. But there have been people that have warned that obviously if she does make this transition into American politics, it's going to be quite strenuous for her marriage to Prince Harry, who's made it clear that he actually is not very comfortable with fame and that sort of life. You know, American politics is a completely different ballgame. You know, the gloves are off effectively, and people don't have any qualms digging up people's past and history. Unfortunately for the Duchess of Sussex, she has a lot of that going on. You know, that she still has this alleged feud with her father and members of her father's side of the family, and they will and politicians will no doubt use that against her, and that will impact undoubtedly the mental health of the Sussexes, but also strain their marriage. And we also have to remember that politicians travel a lot, particularly in the US, which is a vast country. That will undoubtedly have a strain on her marriage and her relationship with her children. She does have some things going for her. Unfortunately, we noticed that in American politics, name recognition is massive. That's how we've seen the likes of many sort of former Hollywood stars move into politics, like Reagan himself. So she does have that as an advantage, you know, being able to have been in Hollywood and have built a bit of name recognition. But we also have to remember she's an actress, and actors and actresses can learn scripts on the dime, and that's a very useful ability to have. Now, will it always come across as genuine? I doubt, even in her time in the royal family, particularly towards the latter end. A lot of the criticism that she received was that she was too polished and too disingenuous and fake, and that didn't really resonate with the British public, who almost saw through her. So while she does have those advantages, it would undoubtedly strain her relationship with Prince Harry. And, you know, it's something for her to bear in mind if she's serious about these political ambitions. I've said that I think she might delay it until her children are a bit older, but you never know. She might feel in her spirit that she's the only one that can save America from itself, and then go on that martyr journey to revive American politics. You never know what goes on in that couple's head.